What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my channel. What I do here is I break down the occult sciences and I break them down to a practical level so that you can use them and apply them in your day-to-day life and get real, actual results with the things that I'm talking about simply by applying your awareness. Okay, so this isn't going to be your typical video from me. This is basically going to give you some understanding of what I offer in regards to my services. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do in this video is pretty much sum up all the services that I am offering currently, mainly in regards to what's on my Patreon and being able to book a tarot card reading with me. Okay, so far, you know, I'm recording this on the July 12th of 2021, so if you're watching this video, this may be old depending on what time you're watching it, or it may be new. You know, you may be watching this newly in July 2021, but maybe it's older, so I may have different services out, but primarily this is going to be some of my most fundamental and foundational services, and I just want to make this video so that I can really explain, you know, where you can find these services and, you know, what these services are and what they're going to do for you. Okay, so this is not your typical video from me. Once again, this is just mainly giving you some awareness of the services that I offer and what you can get from them and where you can find them. Okay, so mainly we're going to be talking about my Patreon services, and then we're going to be talking about the tarot card reading. Okay, so other than that, if you want to know a little bit more about the services that I offer on my channel, then this is the right video for you. Okay, so first thing first, the first area that you're going to want to go to gain access to my services is for sure going to be my Patreon. And I'm going to explain why. What's on my Patreon is going to be some of the most fundamental, foundational information, especially in regards to Kabbalah, ranging all the way up to getting your hands and feet wet with the occult sciences. Okay? Which is something that I have on my Patreon called Magic Training Course, where I'm literally teaching you, demonstrating myself with my own ritualistic setup, performing high-level magic to be able to increase your power and do it in literally the most profound and effective way, gaining as much power as you possibly can. Okay, so once again, it goes all the way from literally getting content that is teaching you about the different spheres on the tree of life and death, all the way to how to make a vision board and how to do an invocation, a basic invocation. So let me explain how the tier system works for the Patreon. So first thing first, where you're going to be able to find the Patreon is going to be that first link on any of my YouTube videos within the description. Okay, so you're going to click the description, and it's literally going to appear as that very first link at the top. And it says My Patreon right next to it. And then I have shouted out all of the top tier members right below that link. Okay? So once again, the tier system goes all the way up to 4 tiers. So it goes 1, 2, 3, and 4. So tier 1 is basically just showing that you're aware of my Patreon and you support the channel. That tier is literally only $1 a month, and you don't get access to anything on that tier other than just me recognizing that you're part of the Patreon. So reality is most people don't join that tier, and over time I actually may end up changing it because once again, most people that are wanting to join my Patreon are joining so that they can take their occult studies and practice to that next level. There are some people that will join the very first tier, but it's very rare. But once again, it's $1 a month, and you don't gain access to anything. Okay, it's just showing that you support. Now, the second tier, this is one of the most popular tiers, and this is the tier that's going to give you access to all of the most fundamental and foundational aspects of the occult that you definitely want to know getting into it. Okay, so primarily it's going to give you a really good, or I should say a really high level of awareness and knowledge of what the entire occult is based around. So what I do for tier 2 primarily, I think the biggest, you could say, selling point for the reason why people would want to apply for tier 2, and the reason why people do, is because I have all the Kabbalistic spheres broken down one by one. So if you understand the Sephiroth, that would be known as the Tree of Life. And then below the Tree of Life, there is something that is called the Qliphoth, which is also known as the Tree of Death. I have every single one of those spheres broken down in depth with their symbolism, all the things you need to know about them, spirits associated with them, planetary energies, what they represent, things in that nature, and my own personal experience having initiated through those spheres myself. So for those of you that don't even know what the Tree of Life is, this is literally the backbone of the occult in general. This is what's called occult initiation, and this would be the entire structure of that initiatory system. So what happens is when you join as a tier 2, you gain access to all of those videos that explain all of those spheres that I'm mentioning, and you get access to a whole bunch of other content. So when I first made my Patreon, basically I only used the second tier. So I had all this content that I released, and it's all accessible to my tier 2 members. But once again, I think the most valuable videos that you're definitely going to get from tier 2 on my Patreon is for sure going to be the Kabbalistic spheres broken down one by one. And then my very first video on Patreon that teaches you how to do an invocation, where I'm actually demonstrating it, performing it on camera, and then teaching you. Okay, those are going to be probably the most important videos that you're going to find as a tier 2. Okay, tier 2 is going to cost $9.95 a month, and that would be a reoccurring payment. So anything from Patreon is a reoccurring payment. Okay, it's a monthly payment. Yes, you at any point you can cancel your membership. You know, it happens all the time. People will join, something comes up, maybe they learn something else, they want to go in a different direction for some time, they'll cancel their membership, they won't get charged for the next month, and then usually what happens is people will end up rejoining later down the road. But yes, you do have that freedom, so if you do subscribe, it's not like you're locked in for anything forever, okay? You can unsubscribe and do your own thing if that's what you want to do. A lot of people just stay because they recognize the value that's on the Patreon. So that would be $9.95 a month, and for all that content that I just explained to you that's on there, I mean, that is extremely cheap for all that information that I'm sharing. Okay, so there really should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to afford that with the value that is on my Patreon for tier 2. Okay, and once again, if you do the math, $9.95 a month, that's like way less than $1 a day. That's literally way less than spending $1 a day. So if you really calculate it with the value that's on there, if you're actually taking your journey seriously, you should be able to find a way to at least get the finances to dive deeper. If you don't want to dive deeper into the occult studies, then that makes complete sense. You know, then definitely then I wouldn't join my Patreon. But once again, if you are curious about this initiatory structure, the Kabbalistic spheres, and the most fundamental practice in regards to invoking, then tier 2 is going to be key. Okay? Now, what happens when you go from tier 2 to tier 3? Tier 3 is going to be where the magic school starts. So, magic training course is what I call it. So, when you go from tier 2 to tier 3, now you can gain access to the magic training course, which is a separate sequence of videos that I've uploaded to my Patreon, and I'm actually in the midst of adding to this series. So I want to say maybe 7 more videos that I'm going to add to the magic training course. So it starts off with getting your tools. Then it starts off with, I teach you how to activate, charge your tools. And then I teach you how to perform necromancy. And I show you how to set up all the tools. And I'm demonstrating exactly what you need to do, exactly how you need to do it in regards to visualization, you know, what needs to be set up where, and all of those things. So that all happens at tier 3. So anyone who's tier 2 or lower will not gain access to this magic training course. So tier 3 is where that access to the training course begins. Okay? Now that's going to be definitely for practitioners. Okay? Obviously you could join tier 3 to just get a, you know, an observation of what real occult magic looks like when someone is performing necromancy, angelic magic, Ars Goetia magic, or casting a really powerful spell, things in that nature. That's always something you could do, but it's mainly meant, I intended it for people that are actually practitioners, okay? So that would be the most fundamental step-by-step process to take you through to develop yourself to have enough power to use low magic in your day-to-day life, to really give you a solid understanding of how real the occult actually is. Because when I teach you how to perform a spell, you're going to see, if you go through the entire sequence that I'm teaching properly and you actually do it, by the time we get to spell casting, you're going to get real results. And what it's programmed to do, the intent that I had behind it is to really show you, as the occultist going through these steps, how real the occult field is. Because when you do a spell and then you see it manifest right in front of you, like whether it's a day later all the way up to a week later, it wakes something up within yourself that a lot of people didn't know, or even don't know was ever possible. Okay, at least that's what it did for me when I first did a successful spell. It was like mind-blowing. I was like, what else can I do, right? And then that thrusted me deeper. So once again, tier 3 is when you gain access to that magic training course, and the price difference from tier 2 to tier 3 goes from $9.95 a month to $25 a month, okay? Once again, with the value that's on there, that is extremely cheap, to just be honest with you. You know, with the steps that I'm going through, with the steps that I'm going through, you know, teaching it, demonstrating it, yeah, there's no reason, if you plan on taking your occult practices seriously, there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to afford that, you know, if you're looking for real results, okay? So then when it goes from tier 3, the next tier is going to be tier 4. So tier 4 is going to be the highest tier on my Patreon. And what I offer in tier 4 is an actual service that I perform for you. Now, this is something I want to say between tier 3 and tier 4. So what I always will recommend, and I really, really do recommend this. I think that this is very important, okay? And I actually even made that clear on my Patreon videos, that I personally believe if you want to guarantee 100% success and results with the magic schooling in tier 3, then what you're going to want to have first, at least performed once on you, is a tier 4 service, okay? So let me explain what tier 4 is. So once again, tier 4 is what I call the vampire service. Now, the reason why it's called the vampire service is because what I'm doing is I'm taking your current energetic structure, your current energy field, so to speak, which is, I can guarantee, most likely 99.9% of the time, more objective based in reality. It's more objective dominant, which means that your sense of self and sense of reality is more dependent on the 5 senses. That's most people, okay? That is most people. It was me before I went through the entire initiatory system. Now, when you get to the higher levels of occult initiation, you start going from what's known as Universe A, that's the objective realm, and you move more so into Universe B, which is the subjective realm. So that would be going from the 5 dimensions outside of those. So it would be the 6, the 7, the 8, the 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so the objective would be more so locked into the 5 dimensions. And even within objectivity, most of the mass collective is stuck within 2 dimensions. That would be the matrix that you live in, right? Where people don't question things. They just follow what they're told. They basically follow orders, and they follow subconscious and unconscious programming that they don't even know about. And their lives are just mediocre, and they really do not enjoy their life, their entire life, okay? So what I do in this service is I take that Universe A energy field, dominant, Universe A dominant energy field that you have, and I use high-level occult science to perform a very potent ritual that takes me at least 3 hours to create on the 29th of every month. Everything about it is ritualistic. The 29th being 9 plus 2 equals 11, which opens the hidden sphere of Dath. Okay, so everything about it is ritualistic, and it takes me a long time to create it. I put a lot of time and energy into it. That's why I only perform it once a month, because there's no chance I'm going to perform it more than once a month. But it is a very powerful ritual, and once again, what it does is it takes your Universe A dominant energy field and it turns it into, I basically install a new energy field in you that is coming from my energy field, having already done this. So basically, essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating a copy of my energy field, and I'm able to install that within you, which gives you the powers, the abilities, and the psychic senses that I allow you to have from my energy field. Now, obviously, I'm very honest on my channel. I'm not going to give you everything I have, okay? That's what makes me who I am. There's a lot of stuff that I've worked extremely hard for that I'm not just going to hand out. But what I am going to give you is I'm going to give you the ability to control the world around you using low magic, okay? And I'm going to enhance your potential to achieve the source within you if that's what you're intending. So if you're not intending to want to go down the path of high magic and achieve the source within you, then what you're going to get is the ability to pull in energy from chaos and turn it into potential. Okay, vampiric in nature. You're becoming more magnetic and pulling in energy, and then you can create reality from that. And you can also create reality from observation. So that means that when you get this vampire service, you actually don't necessarily need to do a whole bunch of occult rituals all the time, because when I shift your energy field to being more Universe B dominant, you're going to recognize that you actually can start doing rituals backwards, which means rather than doing all these different types of rituals and all this other stuff, just like all these other occult orders teach you, you're able to intend and then observe what it is that you're intending, meaning certain symbolism, correspondences, numbers will just randomly show up in your day-to-day life, and that is actually forming a ritual right in front of your eyes, and then within time, it will manifest the more power you gain. So when you have a Universe B energy field, you're actually pulling in energy from chaos, and you're turning it into all potential to create from intention, rather than having a Universe A dominant energy field where you always have to exert and push outwards and do certain things to create. You have to do A and B to get C. Universe B actually works backwards. You just exist, you intend, you observe, and then it manifests. And then you can explain the science afterwards, if that's where you're at. So once again, in this vampire service that I have for Tier 4, this is what I do to your energy field. And so far, there has been all different types of feedback. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for some people. Like I've had people that have gotten the service, and then they've messaged me after, and they're like, hey, did you, are you sure you put my name in? I'm not feeling anything yet. And then what I would tell them is I'd say, just be a little bit patient, because sometimes there's certain astrological alignments that need to be in place for it to really kick in. And then next thing you know, a month down the road, that person messages me on Patreon and says, yo, I appreciate you doing the vampire service. I'm starting to feel it now. It's huge. Like, I'm starting to notice all these correspondences. So there's times where that happens. Regardless, if I do the service on you, it is going to work. It is going to have 100% effect. Just depends on who you are and how it's going to unfold itself. There are other times where I do the service and that same within the hour. There's been times where I've done the service for people and I haven't even told them, or at least they didn't even know when I was doing the service, like what time. And directly after I actually did it, they message me and then they start saying, yo, I know you're doing the service today and I don't know if you did it yet, but all this stuff just manifested out of nowhere and this is not normal in my day-to-day life. And, I can tell this is something that has something to do with the service. And then I message them back and I'm like, yeah, it does. And it sounds like it's really working for you. And it's taking a quicker manifestation. So it just depends on where you're at, how your energy field is at the time and how receptive you are and how long it takes for that new energetic installation to really integrate within yourself. And it depends, certain people are different than others, okay? But regardless, it will work. And it will have 100% outcome, okay? Once again, some will take longer, some will happen right on the dot, but it will work, okay? So that's what I do for tier 4, okay? And once again, the whole motive in a nutshell is rather than giving energy to chaos, you're now more receptive and you can go outside of the 5 senses much easier, more effortlessly, and now you're able to be magnetic and pull in chaos to then turn it into power. Okay, that's the main idea. So that would be tier 4, and it's called Vampire Service. I even have an entire video that explains it if you want to know a little bit more. And that's going to be $50 a month. Okay? Now, in regards to the service and it costing $50 a month, that is, once again, that is extremely cheap for the service that I'm providing. I do my entire ritual setup. I do exactly everything that I know to make it the most powerful ritual. That's exactly what I'm incorporating in that service. And that includes visualization. That includes numerology, Pythagorean numerology. That includes using planetary energies. That includes creating an entire ritualistic spell, writing it all out. That includes summoning specific energies. My own daemon, which is a very powerful energy. It includes using all my tools, pointing in certain directions. It includes me visualizing very intentfully, knowing exactly what I'm visualizing and what I'm doing and what it's programmed to do to you. So it includes a lot of things, and it is a very high level service and a ritual that I do perform. And obviously, when you can do a ritual for a group of, let's say, 15 to 20 people at the same time, and then you get people responding back, 10 out of those 20 saying, hey, right now something just shifted in my life. Did you just do the ritual? That's obviously a sign that there's something powerful going on there. And I know for a fact that it's very powerful, but some people, they get the service and they don't really know how real that stuff is until they actually start seeing results. And then once again, then there's others that it takes a little bit longer, and that's okay too. But at some point it hits them and then they recognize, oh, you know what? I feel it now. I feel a little bit more relaxed. I feel like I can observe better, and I'm starting to notice correspondences more often, and I'm actually able to control my reality better now. Okay? So whether it's quick or long, it's still the service being done. And that service is going to cost $50 a month, and that's going to be a reoccurring payment, once again, just like the other tiers. And as I said, for a service like that, $50 a month is extremely cheap. I know people that do services like this, and they charge thousands of dollars. So it is what it is. Once again, it is a subscription, and I set it up in a certain way where when you get the service, what I do is I write your name down. I have them all in front of me right now. I write your name down, and then I place it on my sigil, okay? And I have, I actually even have other sigils that are on my sigil. So you're getting power from everything that is on my sigil, and I put your names all on top, which means the energy uplines to you. So basically what that means is after you get the service once, I'll write your name down. As I gain power as an occultist, and me personally, I'm always gaining power, okay? Like every day I'm gaining some different sort of power because everything I do is ritualistic in nature. I'm always creating from observation. I'm always gaining power. So the more power I gain on my journey, which is inevitable, where I've, to the degree that I've developed myself, you're going to be gaining power as well because your name is linked and placed on top of my sigil, okay? So that's another part of it. So as you stay as a top tier member, one, a lot of people do that just to support my channel and the fact that they appreciated the service, but two, you're constantly gaining power. You're constantly, subtly gaining more and more and more power as I develop as well. So this is how we create an army, okay? This is my empire. I'm building an empire. So that's how I have it set up, and it's set up very intentionally. Now, if I see that you leave as a top tier member, I will give you 1 month, and after that month, if you still haven't rejoined, then what I do is I'm going to erase your name from the piece of paper that is on top of my sigil. And it will remain removed, so you will not get that, that extra power that's coming to you from being on my sigil. But once again, the service that I did perform for you is a permanent shift. So it will forever be with you, and you will forever be able to pull in energies from chaos and increase it to your likings or your own benefit, your own power. But once again, if you have it on the sigil, you're going to be gaining a lot more because, once again, I'm always gaining power, okay? So if you leave and I see you're gone for a month, I will erase your name. Or if for some reason you didn't want your name on my sigil, if that just is something you're not comfortable with, which there has been one person so far out of all the people that, have the service, completely, please feel free to be completely honest and open with me. Obviously, I have no problem with, removing your name from the sigil at all. I completely respect that. If you're not comfortable with that, then you don't have to have it in the sigil. I personally wouldn't understand why you wouldn't want it on the sigil, but it's not a problem. That is going to be the top tier service that I offer, called the Vampire Service. Now, I once again want to make this clear. I believe to get 100% results for the Tier 3 Magic Training Course, what I would recommend, highly recommend, is getting the top tier service before you jump into the Magic schooling. I think that's going to be extremely valuable and necessary to really get the results that you're looking for and guarantee it. Okay? So I just want to share that as well. All right, so that's going to wrap up my Patreon. That is all my services that I offer on Patreon. So that should literally cover everything. So if you have any extra questions, feel free to drop down in the comments. I have no problem, answering questions that you may have. But I think this should be able to, answer all the questions. And once again, the main reason I've created this video is because I'm sure there's people that, want to know a little bit more about the services that I offer on Patreon. And now I feel like this video just gave a lot more clarity on, whatever it is that you're looking for. Now you know where to find it and what tier to find it at. Okay? So now the next service that I'm going to explain in this video is the link that you're going to be able to find within my YouTube description. That's the second link below. So that link is going to say Square Appointments, and at that link, that's where you're going to be able to book a tarot card reading with me. So how does my tarot card readings work? Okay, so far I've done about 100 readings. Every one of them has been great. I really do like doing these readings. They're fun, and I've been able to learn a lot from them. Like, it's really fascinating doing these readings, especially the way that I do it, mainly because of my knowledge on the Kabbalistic tree. And that is, I think, one of the most profound reasons why people are booking readings with me, is because they want to be able to figure out where they are in their evolutionary journey. And I think that's also another part that makes me unique compared to other tarot readers, is the fact that because I have such a strong awareness, understanding, wisdom, and knowledge of the Kabbalistic tree, I can literally pinpoint where you are in your journey, okay? Because for those of you that know and don't know, the Kabbalistic tree is the symbol of the DNA strand, and that is symbolic because it's trying to show that it runs through your blood. So technically, you don't need to know anything about it. You don't, right? Can you imagine if this information of Kabbalah didn't even exist? You know, just because the information, you know, if the information didn't exist, it wouldn't make sense from an evolutionary perspective if people wouldn't be able to evolve just because the information didn't exist. So the key that I'm trying to make aware here is the fact that this evolutionary system literally is within the DNA. And it comes down to, you know, the scientific perspective of, you know, we have junk DNA and we have, you know, parts of our, you know, you could say energy centers within the body that aren't active until you reactivate them, okay? Bring them back to life, so to speak. So, long story short, every reading I've done has pinpointed where people are on this tree. And majority of the people don't really know too much about the tree. So what I do in the reading is I use 3 cards. The first card is going to represent your present moment. The second is going to represent your near future. And to give a context for the near future, that's anywhere from 2 to 8 months long. But that's just a context. And then the third card is going to represent your long-term future. So to give you a context for long-term future, that could be anywhere from about a year all the way up to 5 years. But once again, that's just a context. You always want to go with your intuition first, okay? So I use those 3 cards. So when I do the reading, the first thing that I do is I start with explaining the artwork and the visualization on the card, okay? And as I'm explaining this artwork, the goal for the person getting the reading is to be drawing points of resonance back to themselves, because there is a lot of subtle symbolism that is within these cards when I'm doing these readings. And I want the person getting the reading to really be paying attention to the way I describe the artwork on the card, because it's going to have a lot of deep meaning. You know, these cards, any tarot deck you get is not going to have a random symbolism. It literally all actually connects back to Kabbalah. The tarot was built from Kabbalah. You know, the Kabbalistic tree. Every path on the tree is based on a tarot card, the 22 archetypal tarot. So, with that being said, I will start with breaking down the visualization, and then afterwards, then I unpack the card and I let you know exactly what everything means. I let you know what you're experiencing, what you're going to be experiencing, and what's going to be coming long-term. So what to pay attention for, what to look out for, what you're currently feeling. And then after I do all of that breakdown, you know, and that bases things off of planetary energies, bases things off of elemental energies. Once again, the subtle symbolism coming from the card, and once again, the archetypal energy coming from the card. And then after all that, then I can locate it to a location within the Kabbalistic tree. So I can literally pinpoint you and give you the roadmap and show you, hey, look, your spirit is right here. Or, hey, your spirit is about to travel from here to here, so get ready for this, this level of transformation and expect this. So that's how I do it. And once I finish, so the way that I do the reading, so it's not a live reading. I don't like doing live readings because I don't want to have to, you know, I don't want to have to be in a locked-in schedule where someone books a reading with me and then I have to be home and I have to make sure that I'm face-to-face with them, and, you know, that's not the life that I'm trying to live. I want to have a little bit more freedom. So what I do is, you know, I'll get a notification when I get your reading, and it'll pop up, and then, you know, as soon as I have the free time, which is, you know, as soon as I can get your reading done is when I'm going to get it done. But let's say, for example, I'm getting my groceries or going for a walk or something, and I get your reading, then I'm just the first thing I do is get in touch with you. I'm going to let you know, hey, look, I'm going for a walk right now. I'm about to eat some lunch, and then right after I finish, I'm going to get your reading done, and it'll be sent to you at this time. That's how I do my reading. So the last thing I want to do is be like, I get booked for a reading, and then I have to be home, and I have to make sure, we're on the call together. I have to make sure your schedule. It just makes things harder for both of us. Okay, so what I do, and this is the reason why I do it this way, is I do your reading once again as soon as I can, and I will do the entire reading on my own time, like away from everything. I'll, make sure my space is silent so I can really get in the zone. And what I have the person do, or what I have you do, is text me 3 random numbers. Now, these 3 random numbers are not random at all, actually. They're coming from your unconscious and subconscious, which is literally tuned in with me because I'm the one that you booked the reading for. So when I ask you for these 3 numbers, we're linked together. So you're going to give out what I call the random 3 numbers, but the random 3 numbers that you're going to be texting me aren't random at all. They actually mean a lot. And the higher aspect of yourself is the part of your being that's giving me those numbers, okay? And so you'll give me some numbers, and then I will use them to pull the cards. So those will end up being your 3 cards. And then I will do the reading based off of the 3 random numbers that you give me, and also the next piece that I ask for is what is your purpose for getting the reading with me? So whenever I do these readings, they're always going to be based around your own evolutionary journey. They're always going to be based around that. But I also give you the opportunity to throw in whatever purpose that you may have behind it. So sometimes people will say, okay, well, I'm changing jobs, and then this is happening. What's going to happen with my career? Or some people will say, hey, I'm in this relationship. What's going on with my relationship? So you can throw in whatever purpose that you have, and then I will also incorporate that within this evolutionary based reading, okay? Which can end up being really cool. But a lot of times people just want to know where they are on the tree, okay? To keep it simple. I will use the 3 cards that I pull based off your numbers. I'll do the entire reading, and then once I finish it and I understand completely, what the reading is communicating, then I take my phone and I switch it to the camera, and I record myself making an entire video similar to this, and I'm saying, hey, how's it going? I just did your reading. And then I even, I start my readings off explaining how I do my readings, similar to what I'm explaining right now, just a little more simple. And then I go into it. I go into the entire reading, and I explain it as in-depth as I can. And then I pull out the Kabbalistic sheet, and I show you where, how the tree works in a general sense. And I show you where you're located and all that stuff, and I go through the entire reading, okay? And at the end, what I do is I give you homework. So the homework that I give you connects back to my Patreon, because your entire reading, the main idea behind it is figuring out where you're at on the tree of life. And I'm telling you right now, I've done 100 of these readings, just about. And every single one literally adds to the tree of life. And when I say that, what I mean by that is the readings will always be in correspondence to traveling on the tree of life. And it always is in direct correspondence. There's not a reading where I got ever where it didn't make sense. So, if you understand how the tree and the initiatory system works, there was never a reading that I've ever done so far, in the 100 readings that I've done, where it was like, it said that they were in this sphere that was like over here, and then their next card went backwards. I never got a reading like that. And that is proof, and it shows how powerful this system is, this evolutionary system, and essentially the hidden sciences of reality, okay, and evolution. So yeah, long story short, at the end of the reading, I give the homework, and I tell you exactly in order what spheres to study. And then I even have a playlist that is on my YouTube channel called the 21 Archetypal Paths on the Kabbalistic Tree. I have it labeled 21 because I count the first one as 0. So typically it would be known as the 22 Archetypal Paths, but I had the first one labeled as 0 back in the day when I made this series, this playlist. So that's why. So 0 counts, and then it goes all the way up to 21. But yeah, so I have this playlist, and that explains all the different archetypal paths on the Kabbalistic tree. So then I'll also tell you exactly which paths to study depending on where you are and what your reading said and where you're headed. And I'll give you those paths in order, and I'll direct you to my playlist on YouTube to watch those videos so you can get an even deeper understanding of your reading. And another good thing about doing readings this way is you're always going to have it on your phone. So when I finish the reading completely, what I always do, and this is how I send the readings to people, is I have you add me on WhatsApp. So WhatsApp is very popular, very common for just communication. And it just is the best app for me to send these videos over. Like all the other apps, for some reason, they give me a hard time. They don't really send, but WhatsApp works perfect. So I will send the video clips broken down for all your 3 cards, the entire reading through WhatsApp. And I'll, we'll get in touch. I'll have you send me a message. Then I'll say, hey, I'm about to send you your readings. And then I'll send them all over. Now you have them on your phone, and you have a permanent video of your entire reading that you can literally study as many times as you need. So it's not just face-to-face, one time, one and done. You still have questions. You can literally look over these the reading that I send you as many times as you need to understand it. And once again, I include the homework to study afterwards as well, which is very valuable if you really want to take your journey to that next level. So that is that, and then after I also send you individual pictures of the 3 cards. Okay? So with that being said, that is going to wrap up the reading and the general idea behind it. So once again, if that's what you're interested in, which is getting an understanding of where you're located, which I think is a very good place to start. I think a very fundamental place to start is like, where am I and where am I headed? Then I would recommend getting a reading with me. But yeah, once again, this video was all created to just give you an idea of what these services are and where you can find them. So once again, on this topic, you're going to be able to book that reading in the second link below. Okay, so this entire video covered all of my services that I offer between Patreon and doing the tarot card readings. Okay, I still have other services, and I'm going to be making it a whole different YouTube video that's going to cover my YouTube membership. What's the word? Tiers, okay? Because I recently set up YouTube membership tiers, which means when you go to my channel on an actual computer and you search up my YouTube channel, you're gonna see a join button right next to my my YouTube channel, Universal Mastery. So there you gain access to exclusive badges and exclusive emojis. But once again, this video is not gonna cover that. I will make an entire new video to cover that service. Because there is a lot of in-depth stuff that I do want to explain it's actually never been done before. Okay, so it's going to be very interesting. And once again, I will be going in depth on a whole nother video. But other than that, if you have any questions, please feel free to message me down in the comments. And I do want to say this as well. When you become a Tier 2 member of my Patreon, you also are getting access to communicate with me whenever you want. Okay, now I'm not always on my Patreon sending messages back to people. I'm not on there 24/7. So there's times where people will message me and it will take me a couple days to get back to them. But what you can guarantee is that I will get back to you and I will respond to your message as in-depth as I can. Okay, I will get back to you and you will get a guaranteed answer, and it will be in-depth and to my best ability. But I'm not always on there every single day. Sometimes I'm on there more often than other times, okay? So that's that. You know, I have a life too. You know, I gotta make sure I take time to process, and you know, getting a bunch of questions can it can be a little bit too much sometimes. So that's the reason why I really, you know, I focus on myself first and foremost and make sure I'm healthy, so that even when I'm answering questions, I'm giving the right answers. You get what I'm saying? But when it comes to like my social medias, it is extremely, extremely rare that I will ever respond to any of those, unless you're like my personal friend. I only talk to like total, most likely 3 people on a regular basis on my social medias, and that's because they're actually my close, really close friends that I've known for years, and I know in person too. They're my real friends. So in regards to sending me messages on social medias, you can, but the reality is you're not going to get a guaranteed response ever. I have messages on there that are from, at this point, months on months that I've not even opened. And it's getting very full. So once again, if you want to have real communication with me, Patreon is the way to go. Okay? So other than that, I'm going to wrap it up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all of you. I think all of you are absolutely wonderful. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day or night, wherever you are. And I will see you on the next video. Peace.